Good morning to one and all. Welcome to the online video lecture for the subject machines 2. And the topic I would like to discuss today is three-phase induction motor characteristics. That is the torque equation under this three-phase induction motor characteristics. Okay. So let's see first of all what is the torque. So this is the basic definition. Earlier we have studied in our physics subject likewise. Okay. So torque is meant that the turning or twisting moment of force about an axis. So it is a turning or twisting moment, and it is measured by the product of force and radius at which this force acts. So look at this diagram. So it is measured by the product of force and radius. Okay. Let us consider a small pulley here. In the diagram you can see here of radius r meters acted upon by a circumferential force of F Newton. So see the direction of the force which causes the pulley to rotate at n rpm. Okay, so either it may be in rps or rpm, so that's up to our convenience. Okay, so this develops a turning or twisting moment. Okay, when a force is applied to this pulley, so based upon the radius, so the value is force into radius. Okay, next, then the torque t equal to let torque is denoted by t, which is equal to force applied on it and the radius of the uh, pulley. Okay, so and the units are newton meters, so or nm. The work done by this force is in one revolution is equal to force into distance. Okay, so where f into where force is f and the distance is 2 pi r and the units are joules. So work done by this force is f into 2 pi r. Okay. Next, according to this, the power developed here is P equal to F into 2 pi R into N. Okay, so where N is the speed in RPM. Okay, next, which is equal to F into R into 2 pi N. So we are separating the constants here. Okay, because force may be continuously varied and yes, we are segregating here for our convenience. Let us see where 2 pi n is the angular velocity omega in radians per second, and the force and the torque is F into R. So therefore the power developed in the motor is, or in the machine is, T into omega. So for this for our convenience we are segregating this equation here. So power developed equal to T into omega watts. So this is the power developed, and the, or it can be written as P equal to T omega watts. Okay, where omega is the angular velocity, which is equal to 2 pi n by 60 radians per second. Okay, earlier in the slip concept also we have seen either in terms of ns or in terms of omega s also we can derive the equation. So next, the torque produced by the three-phase induction motor depends upon these three factors, that is the rotor current, flux and the induced EMF. Okay, so look at this. The first one is the magnitude of the rotor current, because either the squirrel cage rotor or the slip ring rotor, so it draws the current. So there the circuit is closed there. So as per the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, what happens? The induced EMF is developed in the rotor conductors, so which is developed because of the rotating magnetic field at the stator. Okay, so um, the torque is depending on this, the current drawn by the rotor and the flux. Okay, so earlier in the machine in the DC motors part we have seen the term there, that is T is proportional to phi into Ia, so flux into armature current, right? In the similar way, so here also the rotor current I2 and the flux developed in the rotor, okay, so are the cause for producing EMF in the rotor part of the induction motor. And lastly, the power factor of the rotor of three-phase induction motor is, see why here the power factor concept comes here means it depends upon, there exist the conditions, right? Earlier we have seen that standstill and running conditions. Okay, so here T is proportional to phi into Ia. That means here the current means the secondary current, the rotor current. Also, the power factor plays a important role in this torque development. So we have considered the power factor term also. Okay, so which is varied from standstill to running conditions to standstill conditions. So overall, combining all these equations here, the torque is proportional to phi, that is the flux developed, and the rotor current I2, and the power factor at the rotor side. So T is proportional to phi I2 into cos phi 2. So let us consider this as equation 1. Okay, next. Here, in this equation 1, that T is the torque developed produced by the induction motor, phi is the flux responsible for producing induced EMF, and I2 is the rotor current, and cos phi is the power factor of the rotor circuit. Okay, next. So why here phi is flux is responsible for producing EMF means, so earlier we have seen the rotating magnetic field which is created in the stator, it is linked to the rotor coil. So this RMF revolves at a speed of synchronous speed. Okay, so due to this, what happens? The EMF is induced in the rotor conductors. Okay, so that is the actual cause of this statement. So that is the justification of this statement. So the flux phi produced by the stator is proportional to stator EMF E1, that is phi is proportional to E1. Okay, so soon after the supply is given for the stator winding in an induction motor, so the EMF E1 is induced in the primary coil, that is the stator coils. Okay, so which is also proportional to the flux produced. So these two will have the same frequency. Okay, the magnitude as well as uh, the frequency will be same. Okay, earlier we have seen that E1 and E2, these two are also will be proportional. It has the same magnitude and the same frequency, but they may be in out of phase or in phase. So that is not a big issue in that. But whereas in the current part, it will be different. Okay, the frequency, the magnitude and the frequency may differ. So according to that, the rotor frequency also varies. As we have seen that it varies from 1 to 4 hertz. Okay, so we know that the transformation ratio K is defined as the ratio of secondary voltage to the primary voltage. So this equation we have earlier seen in the transformer part. So transformation ratio. Suppose if K equal to E2 by E1. So we have discussed that. Look at equation 2. So phi is proportional to E1, and substituting that value here, so we get K equal to E2 by phi. Okay. So which is also equal to phi equal to E2 there. If suppose K is equal to 1. Okay, so the constant, this is the constant there. So next, so and the transformer part also we have discussed that the EMF E1 is equal to E2 E1, that is what is the value 4.44 pi N1 into F. So likewise we have defined the equation, right? So E1 is equal to E2, only the terms will be different, that is N1 and N2, that may be different. So remaining all the constants will be same. So likewise the flux is also proportional to E2 here. Okay, right. So the look at this point, the rotor current I2 is defined as the ratio of rotor induced EMF under running condition to the total impedance Z2 of rotor side. So we know that I equal to V by Z, right? So the total voltage to the impedance. Here there exists the rotor impedance. Earlier we have seen that a rotor resistance exists and the rotor reactance exists. Okay, and what is the relation between the resistance and reactance in terms of slip also we have seen in the last class. Okay, substituting all those values. So where here S is slip, I2 equal to, I2 means the rotor current is equal to E2 by Z2. So that is the actual value here, E2 by Z2. But what is the value of E2? So E2 in the sense the rotor induced EMF, which depends upon the slip value. Okay, so S into E2 by Z2. So this equation already we have derived in the earlier class. So I2 equal to S into E2 by Z2. So consider equation as 4. So and the total impedance in the rotor side is Z2 equal to root of R2 square plus S into X2 whole square. So this is the magnitude of the impedance. So as per the standstill or running condition, we can substitute the values. If standstill condition, S will be is 1, and under running conditions, based upon the slip value, that is from 0.2, 0.3, likewise 2 to 8%. So that value is substituted here, and we get the final impedance value. And the resistance part, it remains constant. Okay, so even irrespective of the standstill or running conditions, the resistance remains same because the coil has some internal resistance and it will be a constant there. And in case of the squirrel gauge, okay, we will see the later the end of the slide. There is a content about this. Next, substituting 2 in 1 we get, so 2 in the sense, so phi is proportional to E1 here, and we are substituting that value in this equation 1. We get I2 equal to S into E2 by root of R2 square plus X2 square. Okay, right, sorry, here actually it should be S into X2 square. Okay, next, so the power factor is defined as ratio of resistance to that of impedance. So cos phi equal to R by Z there. So in order to find out the power factor at the rotor side, so what happens here, R2 by Z2. 1 second. Okay. Right. So the power factor of the rotor circuit is cos phi t equal to R2 by Z2 there. So R2 by substituting the impedance value here. So this is the equation. Okay. So here we got the impedance value, the rotor impedance, rotor current in terms of slip, and power factor in terms of the slip. So these are the individual parameters, and we are going to substitute all these equations 2 to 7. So 2 to 7 in the sense, so 2 is this is the flux proportional to E1, and the next the secondary current I2, impedance Z2, rotor impedance, and power factor. So substituting all this value, we get T is proportional to E2 into, so what is this value? I2. So S into E2 by root of R2 square plus S into X2 whole square into power factor. So power factor is R2 by R2 by root of R2 square plus S into X2 whole square. So combining the similar terms, we get, see here we are separating it. We get T is proportional to S into E2 square into R2 by root of R2 square plus S into X2 whole square. So removing the proportionality constant here, we get, so T equal to K into S into E2 square into R2 by root of R2 square plus S into X2 whole square. Here the constant K is 3 by 2 pi ns. So small ns means the value is capital Ns by 60. Okay, please remind that. So here we are, wherever we are writing the small ns means that is equal to capital Ns synchronous speed by 60. Okay, next. Yes, here it is given. Okay, so where ns equal to ns by 60. So finally the torque equation becomes, so T equal to S into E2 square. So this is the in terms of slip we are writing the torque. So E2 square into R2 by root of R2 square plus S into X2 square into 3 by 2 pi ns. So in Newton meters. So this is the torque equation of an induction motor in terms of the slip. So with this all the derivation part, what we are going to conclude there. So the first, let's get back here. The torque is proportional to the flux developed, the rotor current. It depends on the rotor current and the power factor. So at the end of the finally what we are going to conclude is we have to derive all these parameters. What is the flux and what is the relation there? What is the rotor current developed in terms of slip, and what is the power factor developed in the rotor circuit in terms of slip, and substituting all this value, we get the torque equation with a constant 3 by 2 pi n into s. So this is the torque developed in an induction motor. Okay, next, some more additional information here. So what about the starting torque in a squirrel cage motor? How it behaves? Okay, let us see. The resistance of a squirrel cage motor is fixed, as we are well known. With the end rings, all the rotor bars are ended. Okay, and the end rings acts as the return paths. Okay, is fixed and small as compared to its reactance. Okay, and the resistance of what does it mean? The resistance of the squirrel cage rotor is less when compared with its reactance, that is X value. Okay, which is very large, especially at the start. Okay, so at the start, it is mentioned that the frequency is high. Obviously, the reactance also will be high. Okay, so what is the value there? X2 equal to X2R equal to S into X2. Earlier we have defined that equation, right? So substituting S value in 1, we get S value the 1, we get X2R equal to X2. So that's why at standstill the reactance offered is high, because the slip value is 1. Okay, the frequency of the rotor equals the supply frequency, but in standstill the rotor never rotates. Okay, next, hence the starting current I2 of the rotor, though very large in the magnitude, lags by a very large angle behind E2. So this is the fundamental thing. So what is the relation of a voltage and current in the inductive coil means I2 lags V2. So at an angle of 90 degrees. Okay, or in theoretical case, or it will be less than somewhat 90 degrees. But there is a lot of lagging is there. So obviously, what happens cos 90 in the sense, so it is not practically possible. Okay. Uh, so the rotor never rotates, but the amount of current draw will be very high. So which may, if it is continued in the practical session, but the windings may get damaged. Okay, so with the result that the starting torque per ampere is very poor. Okay, so that is the case here. So that is the actual drawback of the squirrel cage rotor. The starting torque is less. So it is roughly 1.5 times the full load torque, although the starting current is 5 to 7 times the full load current. So look at this, it is exceeding the full load current. So and the torque will be 1.5 times. Okay. Hence, such motors, that is the squirrel cage motors, are not useful where the motor has to start against heavy loads. Suppose if you want to connect a heavy loads that has to run the mechanical loads, right? All the motors are connected to the mechanical load. If suppose heavy loads are connected, then these squirrel cage motors, due to the problem of less starting torque, so it is not much applicable. Okay. Next, starting torque of a slip ring motor. Okay, so the starting torque of such motors is increased by improving its power factor by adding the external resistance in the rotor circuit. Okay, so look at this diagram here. So this is the slip ring rotor, right? So with the help of the brushes through the slip rings here, we are connecting the external resistance bank. Okay, so this is called the shunt connected resistive bank. Okay, so with this external resistance in the rotor circuit, from the stator connector rheostat resistance being progressively cut out as the motor gathers the speed. So because of this external resistance, what happens? So the speed can be improved there. So by allowing the current. Okay. Next, additional of the external resistance, however, increase the rotor impedance and so reduces the rotor current. So because of this external resistance, okay, so it can limit the actually it prevents that it limits the rotor current. Okay, at first the effect of improved power factor predominates the current, decreasing the effect of impedance. So even though of course it improves this starting torque, but to certain extent the power factor is fine, but after that the it may affect on the impedance because it leads to some additional losses. Okay, hence the starting torque is increased, but after a certain point the effect of increased impedance predominates the effect of improved power factor. So that is the meaning of the point here. So the torque starts decreasing. Okay, at the starting itself the torque is the self starting torque will be high, but if it cannot be continued for a certain period of time, because if, the impedance may rise and it may leads to again reduction of the torque. Okay, right. So this is the justification of the slip ring rotor and the squirrel cage rotor torque development. Okay, let us see a sample example problem. Okay, uh, the 6-pole wound rotor induction motor is excited by a 3-phase 60 Hz source. Calculate the frequency of the rotor current under the following conditions. So here they have given that a 6-pole machine is there and it is excited by 3-phase supply of frequency. Fundamental frequency is 60 Hz, or the supply frequency is 60 Hz, and we need to calculate the frequency of the rotor current under the conditions. So we in the all the cases we need to find out the frequency of the rotor current. Okay, fine. So first case is standstill. What do you mean by standstill? So S equal to 1 there. Okay. So next second case is that motor turning at 500 rotations per minute in the same direction as the revolving field. So revolving field means the stator rotating magnetic field, which is the synchronous speed. So it is following the same direction. Okay, so the rotor is rotating at 500 rotations per minute in the same direction of ns. So actually here this is the n value. So nr or n, okay, no issue. So it is following the same direction, and here the n speed is 500. Okay, next, what about the third case here? The motor running at 500 rotations per minute in the opposite direction. So here it is in the same direction, opposite. How can you say that the same or opposite means based upon the synchronous speed? Okay, right. Next, so that means here only we can conclude that here n is positive and here n is negative here. That is the rotor speed. Next, last case, the motor running at 2000 rotations per minute in the same direction as the revolving field. Here this is also same here, but it runs in 2000. Okay, so let us see the solution here. First case is a standstill. Okay, so we need to find out the slip, right? So at standstill, we by default we can write it as 1, but let us check it out. Okay, so what is the speed there given? What is ns equal to, what is the value of ns here? 120 f by p. So 120 into supply frequency, actually I have missed here. So 120 into f 60 by p, 6 pole. So we get around 1200. Check, please check that. uh, it may be 1200. And the nr, so sorry, and the n, rotor speed at standstill means it is not rotating. Not rotating means the value is 0 there. So we get slip equal to 1. Okay, so they have asked that at each case we need to find out the frequency of the rotor current. Okay, so frequency means f2r or fr. Okay, so don't get confused. Rotor frequency in some textbooks it is termed as f2r, or it may be f2, which is equal to slip into supply frequency. Okay, so it gives here slip at this condition, slip is 1 and the supply frequency is 60. So the rotor frequency also 60 hertz. So from this what we can conclude, at standstill the rotor frequency is equal to the supply frequency. Okay, fine. Next, what about case B? When the motor turning at 500 revolutions per minute, or rotations per minute in the same direction as the revolving field. Okay, so at that, what is the condition there? So already we know the rotating magnetic field in the stator, so that is the synchronous speed is 1200. And if the rotor is running at 500 in the same direction means n is positive there. Okay, so by substituting n value here, we get the slip is 0.583. Okay, next, at this instant, at this slip, what is the rotor frequency? Okay, so that is the case we need to find out here. So again, same, f2 equal to s into f. Substituting the slip value at that particular frequency, we get 35 hertz. So this means at 500 rotations per minute in the same direction of the rotor. Okay, so we got the slip is 0.58. At that instant, the frequency of the rotor is 35 hertz. Okay, next, uh, motor running at 500 rotations per minute in the opposite direction of the revolving field. Revolving field means the synchronous speed. That means the motor speed is negative. So n equal to minus 500. So substitute that value here. So 1200 synchronous speed minus of minus 500. So we get 1700 by 1200, and the value is 1.417. So actually we know that slip varies from 0 to 1, and here the theoretical analysis it is 1.417. So this implies that a slip greater than 1 implies that the motor is operating as a brake. Okay, so this point I'll clearly explain you in the torque slip characteristics. Okay, further in the next class, and clearly I'll give you the information, but just make a note that if the slip is exceeding 1, the machine acts as a, or the motor acts as in, it is in brake condition. Okay, it is operating as a brake. Okay, next, at this slip, what is the rotor frequency? So substituting the slip value here, we get 1.417 into 60, we get 85 hertz. Okay, next, last case. So if the motor is running at 2000 rpm, okay, Yes, in the same direction as the revolving field. So we get slip equal to ns minus n by ns. Here we get it is given as 2000 in the same direction means positive. So we get minus 800 by 1200. So we got the slip value is minus 0.667. So here we have to just notice that the slip is negative. So earlier we have seen slip greater than 1. It is in braking condition. Here it is negative. That means it acts as a generator. Again same I will give you later this clarification about how it acts as a generator and what are the applications and all we will discuss later. But just make a note that here negative slip means it acts as a generator. So by substituting this slip value here we get at this fundamental frequency we get minus 40 hertz. So if the rotor is rotating at 2000 rpm of the same direction of the stator, next at that instant the slip is minus 0.667 and the rotor frequency at this case is minus 40 hertz. Okay, so these are the cases and these are the simple example. So thank you. Hope you understand this topic, the torque.